The Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals for the first time since 2010 and looking to win their first championship since 2008. And of course, this Boston team, they're deep. They have Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Derek White. They're a really well-rounded team with a good shot of winning the title. But their big X factor, the reason they're here, is their superstar, Jayson Tatum. And yes, I did say it, Jayson Tatum is a superstar and a bona fide top 10 player. No, I'm not being hyperbolic or looking for hot takes. Tatum at this point should be a definitive top 10 player in virtually everyone's minds. And don't take my word for it, look at his play in this year's playoffs, averaging 27.1 points per game, 6.5 boards, 5.9 assists on 45, 37, and 84 splits. Those numbers on their own merits scream top 10 player and NBA superstar. And if you want to add even more context, look at the teams Tatum's faced in every single round. In the first round, he played the Brooklyn Nets with the quote-unquote super team of KD and Kyrie, and his team swept them in embarrassing fashion. And that series averaged nearly 30 points per game, 7 assists, 5 boards on 46% shooting, outplaying one Kevin Durant, who at that point was debatably the best player in the entire NBA. And sticking with that Brooklyn series, in Game 1 in Boston, Tatum had 31 points and the game-winning buzzer-beating layup. That shot quite literally changed the complexion of the series, gave Boston momentum, gave them confidence, and was a big boost to their overall championship hopes. And even looking at Game 3, a vital game in the series, Tatum once again balled out, having 39 points, including 14 in the fourth quarter. Of course, Boston got the W, and only one game later would finish off this so-called super team. And looking at Tatum in the second round versus defending NBA champions, who were minus Chris Middleton, but albeit still a very good team led by Giannis, the definitive best player in the world. And a true test of a superstar like Jayson Tatum is do they rise to the occasion and they step up versus one of the best players in the world. And of course that answer is a resounding yes for one JT. As in this series, he averaged 28, 6, and 5 on 43% shooting. And of course you guys know this series was a hard-fought battle, with both these teams being elite defensively. And I do want to point out 3 big games from Tatum that quite literally saved Boston's season. Looking at Game 4 in Boston, Tatum had 30 points, including 12 in the fourth quarter. Looking at Game 5 in Boston, he had 34 points, and once again 12 in the fourth. And then in Game 6, down 3-2, had the best game of his life, having 46 points and 16 in the fourth quarter. Tatum in those 3 games epitomized what it means to be an NBA superstar. Specifically Game 6, where once again had the best game of his life on the biggest stage in the biggest moment. And I wouldn't say he outplayed Giannis, but in this series he held his own, and on both ends of the floor was elite. He averaged 28 and played great on-ball as well as off-ball defense. And speaking of defense, looking to the East Finals once again, Boston will face a juggernaut defensive team, that being the Miami Heat. And Tatum for this series averaged 25 points per game, 8.3 boards, 5.5 assists on 46% shooting. And his 2 statement games of this series came in Game 4 as well as Game 7. And looking at Game 4 first, in this game Boston was down 2-1 in a must-win game at home in the Boston Garden. And of course, Tatum, per usual, he stepped up, having 31 points, the highest in that game. And of course, in Game 7 in South Beach, Tatum once again stepped up, having 26, 10, and 6, and leading his team in virtually every category. And of course, all Game 7s, they're high intensity, there's high drama, and the chance to make the finals, there's tons of pressure. But for Boston in particular, unlike Miami, they hadn't made the finals in over a decade. And for the duo of Tatum and Brown, this is a big-time litmus test of how good they actually were. And like they've done all postseason long, once again in this Game 7, they stepped up and they got the W. And being a Boston fan myself, if we lost to the Heat in that Game 7, this year would be a massive disappointment. As in years past, when they made the conference finals, really they weren't supposed to be there and they were the underdogs. For this series, they were the favorites and realistically should have beat the Heat in 6 or possibly 5. I'm not downplaying how good the Heat were, but for the majority of the series, Boston, they were shooting themselves in the foot and making costly mistakes at the worst possible moments. And when looking at Tatum individually, the last 3 years in the playoffs, he's always been a great player, averaging 27, 8, and 5 on 44, 37, and 84 splits. And during that stretch, he was top 5 in points per game and an elite offensive talent. But this year in 2022, the stats and the wins finally came together and all coalesced in Boston making the finals. And once again, that for an NBA player is huge for the resume at only age 24. And as an overall playoff performer, looking at the last 3 years, I think Tatum is actually kind of underrated. As during that stretch, he's 3rd in 30-point games, 7th in 40-point games, 2nd in total points, and the only player in the NBA top 10 in points, rebounds, assists, steals, as well as blocks. Not Giannis, not KD, not Embiid, Jokic, not any of those guys are top 10 in every category like Jayson Tatum. Once again proving the top 10 player and undoubtedly an NBA superstar. And if you aren't convinced Tatum's a superstar already, I want to add in 2 very important things. That being bounce back play and big time performances. As JT after losses is averaging an astounding 31.5 points per game, 8 boards, 5 assists on 50% shooting. For Boston, it's pretty simple. JT plays good, they win. JT plays bad, they lose or get blown out by 30. And if the games are close in the end, Jayson Tatum right now is the best 4th quarter and late game player in the playoffs. In total, having 120 4th quarter points, that's first, an outstanding 54, 48, and 88 splits. That right there for an NBA superstar is the last checkpoint of being an all-time great player. Adding on to that, Tatum is a great scorer, he's great in the clutch, he's a great defensive player, and his passing as of late has taken that big bump up, and his basketball IQ, his shot selection, is much improved in 2020 or even 2021. I think saying all that makes it pretty clear, Tatum at this point is a superstar and a top 10 player and debatably top 7 or even top 6. So with that being my final point, that is the end of the video. In my case, why Tatum is an NBA superstar and at worst a top 10 player. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.